On the bustling streets of downtown Los Angeles, the air was heavy with exhaust fumes, hurried footsteps, and the occasional waft of expensive perfume drifting from designer boutiques. But near the subway entrance on Spring Street, a small scent of something different lingered, soft, floral, nostalgic. Not the bottled aroma of luxury, but the raw essence of roses, lavender, and sandalwood, hand-blended by a man who called himself Rafik. Rafik wasn't listed in any business directory. He didn't have a license, a tax ID, or even a proper card. Just a battered suitcase, a folding stool, and a tablecloth on which tiny vials of oil perfume stood in proud defiance of the towering buildings around them. Every day, he whispered stories with every bottle, how jasmine reminded him of his mother's garden in Aleppo, or how oud was a smell of courage on hard days. He had charm, not the slick kind, the warm kind, the kind that made lonely people linger a moment longer. He didn't beg, he didn't push. He invited people to smell the world, and sometimes to remember something they thought they had forgotten. And that was exactly what Cassandra Holt did the day her heels broke near Rafik's corner. She was everything the world called successful. CEO of an AI startup, featured in Forbes 40 Under 40, with a penthouse view of the city and a team that worshipped her intellect and feared her temper. But that day, rain had just started to fall, her assistant had called in sick, and she was already late for a pitch meeting worth $12 million. She cursed under her breath as the heel of her Louboutin snapped. And then she smelled something that didn't belong on a wet street in L.A. "Is that sandalwood?" she murmured, distracted. Rafik turned slowly, with a small bow. "Not just sandalwood, madam. This is remembrance, a blend I made myself. Would you like to try?" She almost rolled her eyes. But something about the way he said remembrance, like it meant something more than scent, made her pause. He uncapped a small bottle, dabbed it gently on a paper strip, and extended it to her. She hesitated, and then she inhaled. For a moment, just a moment, Cassandra was in a high-powered tech mogul. She was 8 years old, curled up in her grandmother's lap in rural Georgia, listening to lullabies while the air filled with the scent of wooden floors and dried flowers. When she opened her eyes, she looked different. "How much?" she asked quietly. Rafik smiled. "This one is not for sale. But if you'd like a different blend, I have some." Something stirred in her, but the CEO part quickly recovered. "Fine. Give me something close." She left with a small bottle in her $6,000 purse. But Cassandra returned. The next week. Then again. Then she began ordering them for her staff. 4 clients. For herself. Each time she came, she stayed a little longer. She started bringing him coffee. One time, she even sat on the folding stool while he told her about how Damascus smelled in spring before the war. He never asked for her number, never complimented her appearance, but he listened in a way few ever did. One afternoon, while watching people rush past, Cassandra sighed. "You know, you could make a fortune if you branded this stuff properly." Rafik smiled. "And lose the stories that make them alive?" She frowned. "You're wasting your talent on the street." "You're wrong," he said gently. "The street is the only place people still stop to feel something." Cassandra blinked. No one ever told her she was wrong. And yet, it didn't make her angry. It made her curious. One evening, Cassandra invited him to a product launch gala. "You'd be good for the brand," she said. "A refugee perfumer with a heart of gold? People eat that up." He looked at her with something between disappointment and sadness. "Do you want to help me, Cassandra, or sell me?" She bristled. "What's wrong with making something of yourself?" He replied, "You think value comes from price tags. I think it comes from presence." That night, she didn't sleep. The next week, Rafik was gone. His usual spot was empty. Only the chalk stain of the tablecloth remained on the concrete. She checked the shelters, the hospitals, even the police. Nothing. Weeks passed. Then months. One morning, a brown package arrived at Cassandra's office. No return address. Inside was a small bottle labeled Awakening and a note. "Sometimes, to find yourself, you must lose what you thought mattered most." She stared at the bottle for a long time before tucking it away. Years later, Cassandra left the company. She sold her shares, liquidated her assets, and opened a small shop near the edge of Echo Park, a perfumery. But not just any perfumery. There were no digital ads, no QR codes, just bottles and stories, and a small wooden sign above the entrance that read, "Smell the world." People came, not in droves, but in sincerity. She didn't speak much of Rafik, except to say, "He reminded me how to feel again." Then, one foggy winter morning, she stepped out to sweep the sidewalk. Across the street, near the alleyway, a familiar figure sat on a crate, warming his hands over a cup of tea. She froze. He looked up and smiled. She crossed the road like a woman chasing her shadow. "Rafik," she whispered. He stood, bowed slightly. "I heard you found your presents." She blinked back tears. "Why did you leave?" "I never left. You just needed to be without me to find what was always inside you." They stood in silence, surrounded by the hum of the city. Then she hugged him, not like a savior, not like a lost love, like a mirror finally finding its reflection. Today, they run the perfumery together. No contracts, no labels, just trust. People still come, some for scents, others for peace, some for stories, but everyone leaves changed. Because sometimes it takes a man with nothing to remind a woman who had everything what truly matters. Moral message: the richest wealth isn't what's in your bank, but what's in your heart. Real success isn't found in skyscrapers or stocks, but in sincerity, in presence, in people. Sometimes, the one you think you're helping is actually the one helping you become who you were always meant to be.